Making sure your board's set up nice and safely. Hopefully we won't be falling in the water because there isn't any, and hopefully you won't be falling off. Do just make sure that you do what is good for you. So if there's anything that doesn't feel right, I will always give easier options, harder options, just because different people like doing different things. Different bodies have different things that are good for them. So that might mean in one particular pose that you have something more challenging that you want to try, and then another pose you go for the more stable version. Do what is right for you. Sometimes it's good to have a bit of fun with things, but just you've got to really listen to your body. Obviously it's great if I can see you, I can see most people, but just making sure that you can see me if you need to without sort of craning your neck too much and causing any discomfort. And yeah, let's go. So starting on your on the centre line, so standing on the centre line of the board. So if you've got a mat, just pretend it's a board. You can draw out a board if you like. But on a board, what's different to on a mat is you have to orientate yourself over the centre of the board. And although we're not on the water, especially if you've got some instability going on with some cushions or what have you, it still applies that it's good to be over the centre line of the board. So standing with your feet either side of the handle, nice soft knees, and we're just going to have a little wiggle from side to side. So if you've got a bit more wobble under you, then you'll notice the board will move. If you're on your mat, just kind of a loose side to side. And one of the purposes of this is just to get yourself feeling, I'm going to have a little, begin to take it into a bit of a wiggle out. It's just to get yourself feeling loose and easy. Okay, so especially on a board, but it applies on a mat too, we can be a bit rigid and a bit upright, and then the chances are, if you're like this, if anything takes you, in life as well, if anything takes you off balance, you're gonna fall. So if we can be nice and soft and easy and kind of make everything easy rather than hard, then our balance is better, and we're more kind of steady with less effort. So that little kind of easy, soft feeling, and then we're going to take that into qigong twists. So what are you doing? Do you want to come and say hello? Qigong twist. Amber's just turned up somehow. So twists, letting the arms swing, letting the shoulders move side to side, and I'm pivoting on my heel here, so just letting the hip get into this. That's not into so again, nice and loose, letting the hands just tap you at the back, and then coming to center. Now let's think about our feet and the connection on the board. So on a board in particular, you'll have your feet slightly wider more often rather than narrow, holding together, and that just gives you more stability. And think of spreading the feet, spreading the feet, and lift up your toes. Lift up your toes and spread all those toes. Place the toes down nice and wide. And feel that connection of your feet and the board. Okay, so we want to root ourselves in our poses, especially on a board, also on a mat. Feel the connection with the ground beneath you. And what I'd like you to do now is see if you can lift up just the big toe. So just the big toe lifts, and then place that toe down, and then see if you can keep the big toe down and lift all the other toes up off the floor. It's quite tricky without straining too much. Lifting those toes and then placing that down. See if you can go again, lift just the big toe, keeping all the other toes down, and slowly lower, and then keeping that toe down, lift the little toes, or the little toes, the other toes, and then slowly lower. And then we're going to come up onto our tiptoes here. So just lifting up, you might just be a little, you might be able to come higher. See how high you can lift and lower. This is really good for strengthening your feet. So another thing that happens on a board as well is we can grip too much with the feet. You might find sometimes when you're on a board that you feel like the soles of your feet are beginning to cramp up because we grip too much. So we want a balance of strong feet, so that our feet, and being on a board helps strengthen the feet as well. So we want a balance between the feet being strong but not overly gripping. So again, it's that feeling of being loose and free and easy. So now if you can, as you come up to the tiptoes, see if you can reach your arms up overhead. Now a top tip here on a board and on a mat is if you look to the horizon, that will keep you steady. Okay, if you look to the board, it can actually destabilize you a little bit. So looking to the horizon can keep you steady. If you want to make it harder, then you might look up. So it's a lot harder to come up to the tiptoes and stay balanced if you start looking up. But you might want to give that a go, lifting up, lifting down with the arms. And inhale as we come up. Exhale as we come down. Inhale as we come up. Exhale as we come down. And now we're going to take hands on the hips. Take a slight bend in the knee. And we're going to do a little hinge motion here. So a hinge from the hips is a way to fold down without rounding our back or using any of the back muscles, but using the legs and the glutes instead. So hands on the hips, hinge until your body is at right angles. This is our half lift position. Okay, and if you have your hands on your hips, think of drawing the elbows back, engaging the muscles between the shoulder blades and the spine. Okay, so this is our half lift position that we're going to be doing through our sun salutations. And if you put your hands on the shins from here, you can feel it's quite an active pose. And you can use this as you come up to standing and as you fold to help protect the back and also strengthen and use the legs. So this is a good one, especially on a board where we've got that instability. So that slight bend in the knee. And if any of you have done deadlifts in the gym, it's exactly that. Or on an online workout. So inhaling up. And we're going to fold down with that hinge, bend the knees and hug behind the knees. You might want to bring the feet a little closer together here. So have a nice bend in the knees, let the head relax down, hug the knees. And what is good to do here is to press the legs into the arms. So pressing them firmly into the arms creates a kind of push-pull effect and actually helps give an active stretch rather than a passive stretch. So you're folding forwards but pressing the legs into the arms. And then we're going to release from there, come up to standing, inhaling. And then coming down to the board. So bending the knees here, that same kind of deadlift feeling. Hands come forwards, knees come back. And again on a board, we want our tummy to be over the handle, over that center line. Spreading your hands, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. And we're going to do our cat-cow, okay? So tucking the chin, rounding the back, pushing the board away, spreading the shoulder blades and tucking the pelvis. So feel here that whole front of your body is engaged. And then going the other way. Lifting the head up, arching the back, so sticking the bum out essentially, and feel the shoulder blades come closer to the spine here, so the whole back body is engaging. And we want to inhale on this position, and then as we exhale, tuck the chin, round the spine, push the board away. And reverse, inhaling, coming up, and exhaling, rounding. Really push that board away, really feel the front body engaged. We're not just going through the motions here, we're taking a slightly more aware process, somatic attention to the pose, which creates more layers of meaning, if you like. So tucking the chin and rounding, and inhaling, arching. And then coming to neutral. So neutral is our kind of midway point there, where we're not arching, we're not tucking, pelvis is in neutral. Feel braced through the core, so that sense of pushing the board away, being firm through this whole area in your arms. And we're going to try to keep the torso stable and not twisting. So you might actually want to bring the knees slightly closer together here. Slide one leg out, and you can keep the toe touching on the board if you like, and then slide the other arm out. And we're thinking length, so reach the fingers and heels, have the foot flexed as far away from each other as you can, but we're not trying to lift up like that. We're lengthening, lengthening, lengthening. We're going to breathe here for a few breaths. So breathing full breaths, staying stable. Notice how it gets a little more challenging as we stay here a little longer. Breathe through it, and then sliding the hand down and the knee down, and then switching sides, lengthen the toes, lengthen the leg, touching the toes if you wish, or lifting the foot off, flexing the foot and lengthen. So we're looking down at the board or the mat. The fingers point forwards with the palm and hand facing in here, so the thumb is pointing up. Lengthening from heel to fingertips, breathing here. And slowly placing that hand down. So taking the other side again, we're going to do a little combo here. So we're going to lengthen out. Again, you can stay just lengthening out if this next option's a bit too much for you. Bringing the arm out to the side, dip the water in, fingers and toes in the imaginary water that's surrounding our boards and mats. Coming out of the water, back to the front. Pausing here, and we're going to do that again. So taking the arm and leg out to the side, dipping fingers and toes into the imaginary, beautiful, calm, fresh water, out to the front. We're going to do one more like this. Out to the side, slowly lower, slowly slowly lift and coming back. And then again, placing that hand down. Take a breath here. And then sliding the opposite arm and leg out. So breathing here, we're going to take the arm and leg out to the side. Again, we're trying to not twist through the torso. The arms and legs moving and coming to center. Breathing here, taking the arm and leg out to the side. Dipping the toe, back up, and back in. And again, coming out to the side, dipping the toe, coming up, coming in, and placing the hand and knee down. Well done. So sinking back into child's pose, so sitting back on your heels, turn the palms of your hands, so the back of your arms and the palms of the hands are facing up, the back of the hands, and if you really try and pull the back of the hands into the board or into the mat, so we're getting a good reverse action from having your hands face down on the board. So this is good for the wrists here. Pressing the back of the hands down. And then coming back to our all fours, walk the hands forwards ever so slightly, tucking the toes, and we're going to build up into downward facing dog now. So lifting the knees off the board just to a hover initially, and then press the chest back so that we're in a crouched version of down dog, and then slowly begin to straighten the legs. You might want to walk the feet forward slightly here, and come into a marching, so marching those feet. And pay attention to what's going on at the toes. So the toes stay connected to the board, the heels lift, so we're working through those toe joints. And you can change the position, so point the ankles out slightly, bring the ankles in, marching those heels. And then coming up with both heels at the same time. So like our tiptoes at the beginning, some good strengthener. Slowly lower the heels. And lift the toes off as you lower the heels. The heels don't need to touch the floor, but just have the balls of your feet connected to the floor if you can lift those toes off the board. And then pressing the toes in, lifting the heels. And then slowly lower. So we're going to lift one leg at a time here from our downward dog. Anytime you need to break, just come down into child's pose, and you might want to do that arms position with your hands. So to lift one leg, if you put one foot over the centre line, that gives you more stability. Okay, more relevant on water, but it's sometimes good practice just to do it anyway. So one leg over the centre line, lift the other leg high. And if you want to reach up and over with the foot, so we get this twisting motion, it's quite nice. If you prefer just to have the leg straight up, that's fine too. Keeping the chest pressing towards the spine here, towards the thighs here. And then coming to centre, taking the foot over the centre line, lifting the leg high, and then coming up and over if you wish. Breathing here, and then slowly coming back to centre. And now we're going to take one hand at a time off, okay? So this involves trying to stay, again, like in our bird dog, as even as you can with just 3 limbs connected. So into your downward facing dog, lift one hand off. You might want to take the feet slightly wider, maybe take that hand out a little, or in a little. And lifting the foot and bringing it across underneath you and grabbing the outside edge, maybe your thigh, knee or shin. Keep pressing the chest towards the thighs, so you're pulling yourself in towards your thighs and grabbing around the shin or the leg on the opposite side without twisting. So we're trying to stay as in our down dog position as possible. Then swapping hands, placing that hand down, reaching the other hand across. And you might feel that gives you a nice release on the outer hip there too. And coming to centre, dropping knees down, have a little moment in child's pose, sinking back onto the heels. Again, turning those hands up can be a nice counter pose. And then coming back into your downward facing dog. So we've got a little flow that's actually going to prep us for the sun salutations here. And it's kind of like a few more repetitions in one go of some of the elements of the sun salutation. So into your down dog, we're going to do a scoop from down dog into plank and back again. So coming into plank, pushing the board away, and to come out of plank into down dog, think of pushing the board away, lifting through the core and scooping and leading from the pelvis back. So lifting, feeling that uplift, and press back into downward facing dog. And the same, coming up to the toes, drawing the shoulders over the hands into plank. So this is our basic version. You can stay doing this. Now, what we can also do here is lift one leg in our down dog, and then when we come through to plank, bring the knee as close as you can to the gap between your arms. So one leg plank, and then come back. So it's absolutely fine to stay going from plank to down dog and resting anytime you need, but otherwise lifting the leg and really drawing that leg through between the hands, pushing the board away. So you actually get a feeling of rounded back here to create space for the leg. And again, pressing back, lifting the leg high, and drawing forwards into plank, bringing the knee into that gap. And then coming back to down dog, and we're going to do that on the other side. So lifting the leg, and coming forwards, pushing the board away, creating space there, and bringing the knee into that gap if you can. So the toe doesn't touch the board there, lifting the leg high behind you. Breathing nice and just naturally. You might want to exhale as you bring the knee forwards, but just breathe easily. Lifting one leg high, and then squeezing the knee into the gap, and then coming back to downward facing dog. I'm going to take a few little hops. These are called Shakti kicks. So again, it's from this movement of going forwards and back. So you bring the shoulders forwards over the hands a little more, which frees your feet up to go for a little hop. So nice and light feet. Give it a little go. Well done. Great stuff. Nice, light, soft feet. And then let's take a little rest in child's pose. So sitting back on your heels, arms can be out in front, palms up, or you can have your arms wrapped around by your sides. Let your breath settle here. And notice your breath. Pay attention to the expansion in all directions. You might feel the back expand, the tummy pressing into your thighs. Lovely stuff. We're going to come back up into downward dog and then take a big step forwards. Now this can take a bit of practice here as well to get that step forwards in one go. If you get the feeling of drawing the shoulders forwards, pushing the board away creates space, you might want to lift up onto the fingertips. You can create, and it's that action of drawing the knee through the gap, you being strong with the core to step forwards. If you find you can't step forwards in one go, you might, and all the way to the hands, you might just want to drop the back knee down and then move that foot forwards and then bring the knee back up again. Okay, so then stepping the other foot forwards. Now make sure you're not too far forwards on the board. I probably just did a nosedive there. So sliding back a little bit because we're on our boards, not on a mat, and then inhaling. Reaching arms up. Got a lawnmower there. Hopefully you guys can still hear me. Come into prayer. Always the problem with outside sessions. Oh. If anyone can't hear me, let me know. Okay, so sun salutation flow. We're going to inhale, reaching arms up. Exhale, folding down, stepping back into plank position, pushing the board away. Now, an optional extra here is to slowly lower and slowly press up into press up. You can do that with the knees down and keeping the elbows tucked in to your body, but the chest coming down between the hands, all right? So that's your option with every sun salutation. And then bringing hips back into downward facing dog, trying to make sure you're centered over that center line. Breathing here. And then stepping the right foot forward into our lunge. Stepping the left foot forward, coming to this half lift position. So hands on shins, looking towards the nose of the board. Inhale. Exhale, hugging the knees, letting the head relax. And inhale, reaching arms up. Exhaling, coming to prayer. Well done. And again, inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, folding down, hands down, stepping the left foot back. Pausing, right foot back. And again, optional press up in both directions, using your knees if you wish. Scooping back into downward facing dog here. Take a full breath. And then stepping left foot forward, pausing in this lunge position. Stepping right foot forward, coming to your half lift, bending the knees, flat back, engaged position. Hugging the knees, bending the knees. You can actively press the legs into the arms if you wish. And then inhale all the way up to standing. Exhaling, coming to prayer. Well done. Taking a breath here. And again, inhale, reaching up. Exhale, folding down, stepping your right foot back, pausing in this lunge position. Take a breath, stepping back into plank, pushing the board away, drawing the shoulders forward so chest comes between the hands if you're popping in a press up, and then scooping backwards downward facing dog. And then stepping your right foot forward into the lunge. Again, remembering to drop that knee and take the foot forward. Doesn't get there in one step. And then left foot forward, coming to our half lift, inhale. And exhale, hugging the knees and round. And inhale, reaching up. Exhale, coming to prayer. And again, one more time on the other side. Inhaling, reach. You can look up if you like. Exhaling, fold. Taking that left leg back. Pausing here. And stepping back into plank. Again, optional press up if you wish. And then scooping back into downward facing dog. Taking a lovely breath here. And then left foot forward into your lunge. Right foot forward, coming to this half lift position, engaged. Inhale. Exhale, hug and round, hugging the legs. And inhale, all the way up to standing, arms reach up. Exhaling, coming to prayer. And taking a breath there. We're going to do one more round, but this time lifting the leg before we start. And also coming into a chair pose. So bending the knees. With chair, you can have your feet slightly wider or on the centre line. If the feet are wider, just make sure the knees track over the toes and don't go inwards, okay? So bending those knees, inhaling for chair. Exhale, fold it down, stepping the right foot back into that lunge, stepping the left foot back. You can lower down for your push-up and then scoot back into downward facing dog. Take a breath there. And this time if you wish to lift the leg and then step forwards with the right foot into lunge, stepping forwards with the left foot. Knees slightly bent, inhaling for our half lift. Exhaling to hug. And inhaling all the way up. Exhaling, coming to prayer. Well done. One more time. So a bit sinking down into our chair, inhaling, reaching arms up. Exhale, fold it down, stepping the left foot back this time, pausing. Right foot back to plank, popping in your press up if you wish. And then scooping back, pushing the board away, adjusting your feet slightly if you need to. Breathing here, then left leg lifts high. And step forward into your lunge. And stepping the right foot forward. Coming to this inhale, half lift position. Exhale, hug. And then inhale. All the way up to standing. Exhaling, coming to prayer. And take a moment here. So have your hands at your heart center in prayer. Let the breath settle. Pay attention to the energy in your body. We've stirred up some energy, got some movement flowing in our bodies, created some movement of prana and breath. Standing tall. We're going to make our way down to the board now. So inhaling, reaching arms up, exhale. And we're just going to step back with both feet. And you might want to drop the knees and then come down, kind of roll yourself down onto your tummy here. And we're going to come into a low cobra. So low cobra, your hands are underneath your elbows. And we're going to lift up with the shoulders, using the strength of your back and your core muscles. Lift up, slightly pressing into the hands, but only very gently. Try and make the most of the work coming from the back. In fact, lifting the hands for a little hover here. And then placing them back down again, gently, softly. And then reaching behind you to clasp the hands and lift. See if you can lift a little higher with those hands clasped. And then see if you can lift the legs. It might be a bit uncomfortable in your pubic bone on the board if you've got a hard board. If that is the case, keep the legs down or a little lower. But lifting up. And then slowly release. And we're going to use our hands as a pillow. And place your forehead in the hands for Makarasana. This is our crocodile pose. We take a little bit of time here, a few breaths, to just settle the breath. And pay attention to the feeling of your belly as you breathe. Inhales, the belly presses gently into the board. And the exhale, release. This is a really great way to access diaphragmatic or belly breathing. And also sense it more effectively. We're not forcing the breath into our tummy area. But this position really allows you to access that diaphragmatic breathing because it takes the chest breathing out of it with the position of your arms. And also it's a relaxing pose. So if you force breath, especially belly breath, it can actually be slightly counterproductive. We have to allow it by relaxing and settling into the breathing. And also feel how your back expands as you breathe. So notice now the expansion in the back as you inhale. And releasing. And then bringing the hands back. So back to this low cobra position, so under the elbows here. So hugged quite close into your body. Pressing up into this low cobra. And we're going to build up into an up dog. This is a really nice way to build a really sustainable, strong up dog. So we're going to lift up and begin to press more firmly into the hands. And you can keep the knees connected to the board or lift the knees off by pressing the tops of your feet into the board as well. So looking towards the nose of the board here. Firm and strong through the arms. You can come into all fours to transition to down dog or tuck the toes under you in this position and then scoot back. Now you will on a board need to move the hands and feet forwards to be in the right position for down dog here. So taking a breath in down dog. And we're now going to drop both knees to the floor and come into a kneeling lunge. So stepping your right foot forwards. Hope everyone can hear me. Looks like you can. But we're not going to do, so sometimes a lunge can be really lungy like that, and in fact our sprinter lunges have been a bit like that. But in this kneeling lunge, it's a really good way to explore, really engaging the hip flexors into the lunge. So I actually want you to keep the hip more over the knee, rather than having the hip forward. Scoop the pelvis, so tucking the pelvis under you slightly, and then press forwards and feel how much more of a stretch sensation you get in the front of that hip as you do that by tucking the hip pelvis under slightly. And you can also take your hand and press the back of the hand, so your right hand, on the inside of the right knee and press that knee into the hand. And then inhale and reach your other arm up. So feel how engaged this is. So we're still stretching, we're still pushing into the hip, but we're engaging as well. And then take your top hand across the knee, and the other hand can be on your lower back, or open out to the side for a twist. So pulling that arm back. And really feel the back of the arm pulling back and engaging, looking over to the side. And then turning the shoulders, coming to center. We're going to straighten the front leg for a half split. So that means you slide the foot forward slightly, the heel forwards, point the toes up to the sky. This hip is still directly over the knee. All right, so I'm not sitting back, I'm not sliding it forward. So the hip here is still over the knee. This leg's out in front, straight. And we're going to do that same feeling of folding that we did in our hinge, rather than rounding. So you might want to have fingers on the board here, but see how lifted I am. We're folding from a lifted position. And notice how you get a feeling of stretch a lot earlier if you have this lifted position. So leaning forwards, and you can stay here. You don't need to go any further than your sensation of lift. And then coming up slightly, turn the toes inwards. Okay, and then come forwards a little more. So again, you feel that a bit more on the outer edge of the hip. And then slowly coming up, planting that foot down, sliding the foot back. Again, tucking that pelvis under, and this time lifting both arms up high. So we're still getting that scoop and that slight press forwards. Take your arms out to the side. We're going to do eagle pose. And We're going to do a big hug to set ourselves up for eagle. It doesn't really matter which arm's forward and which arm's back. We can do both directions. But give yourself a big hug first and feel you like walking your fingers around your body. And then use that to help you get that elbow or above the elbow in the front part of your elbow here. And then see, you might have back of the hands together or palms of the hands together for eagle. And then see if you can do a lift and lower here. Just a small lift and lower. And then release the arms, inhaling up and taking hands down, stepping back. And we're just going to swap legs from that kneeling position. So coming into our lunge on the other side, scoop the pelvis under. Get that feeling of scoop. And again, this time the same arm, so the left hand, the back of the left hand presses on the inside of the left knee. And inhale your other arm up. So really feel you're pressing that knee into the hand and the hand into the knee. You're scooping and tucking and pressing here. And you're lifting that arm up. So really engaged pose here. Full breath there. And then bringing that top hand down to the outer edge of the knee, drawing the other arm back. And you can look to the side, really pull that arm back. Again, we're engaging here, pressing this hand into the outer edge of the knee. To engage, feel the outer hip, breathing there. And then slowly come into center, sliding that leg out in front of you. So heel's going to slide a little further forward, foot is flexed, toes pointing up. Hands on the hips, slight bend in this knee. And hinge forward, you probably want a bit of support from the board actually. It's a bit tricky just to hinge forward with the hands on the hips. So when you can reach the fingers to the board, keep that chest lifted, feel active. So these toes are actively pulling up, the leg and the heels pressing into the board actually here. So engage in the hamstring as we're folding. Keeping that chest lifted. And then release out slightly, turn the toes inwards, and then fold over with the foot at a slight angle here. And then come to center, and inhaling, placing that foot back down, keeping the pelvis tucked slightly. Inhale, reaching arms up. Exhale, bring arms out to the side. I only did one side of eagle. I was meant to do it twice on the other side. Sorry, guys. So, do you remember which way you hugged? If you could hug the other way, that'd be great. Sorry. So hugging, big hug, really get the fingers wrapping around you. And then coming into that eagle. So it might just be back of the hands connect. If you can get the palms of the hands connecting, then do so. Still getting this tuck here and the slight press forward. So we're feeling that active hip stretch. And then lift and lower the arms. Breathing here. And then release and inhale. And taking the hands down to the board, stepping back, we're going to come back into downward facing dog. And then stepping forwards, a little forwards of the handle for our half lift. Inhale. Exhale, round and hug. And inhale all the way up to standing. Exhaling, coming to prayer, taking a breath here. Well done. So, hands to prayer again. Feet again can be close together or a little wider apart. And we're going to come into chair. So sinking down as if you're sitting back on a chair behind you. So we're not trying to keep the shoulders directly above the hips here. We come into a bit of a zigzag, a Z position. Reaching those arms up. The thumbs pressing back's really good here as well. And bring the foot to the center line. And lift your right leg up. And then we're going to step back into warrior two. So you might have to step back with one leg and step forward with the other leg. I'm going to swap sides so you can see me. So reaching into warrior two. So again, on a board, we're not on the water, so you will be able to get away with it. But on a board, you really want to have the weight even front to back. So pay attention to how your weight's distributed. How much is in the front leg? How much is in the back? Can you even that up a little bit without straightening this front leg? Because that's why it's a challenge. The front leg's bent, the back leg's straight. We sort of tend to want to dump the weight here, which on a board is then very noticeable. So having your shoulders over your hips, feeling centered, looking down the middle fingers of the front hand. And then elbow to knee, reaching up for extended angle. Breathing here. And then coming back to our warrior two. I'd actually like you to shuffle back a touch on your board if you're on a board. If you're on a mat, it's not really relevant. Just in case you are going to go over the, depending on what you've got underneath. And we're going to come into a pose called half moon. So we're keeping this sideways orientation of our warrior two, and bring the fingers about a foot in front of your front toe, bending this front leg, and see if you can float the back leg off the board. It might just be a little. You might be able to get the leg to right angles. Okay, and if you can reach the arm up and look out to the side, it's a bit tricky, so you want to be right on that center line, doing whatever you can here, breathing, lovely strengthener for the leg as well. And then we're going to slowly come down, shuffle the feet forwards again, if you're on your board in particular, to come back into your warrior two. And breathe there, well done. And then pivot the back arm up and over, place that hand on the board, and twist in the opposite direction. So reaching the arm and looking over in the opposite direction. And then taking hands down, step forwards. We're going to inhale all the way up to standing. Exhale, coming to prayer, pausing here, and then bending the knees, coming into chair, and we'll do that on the other side. So this time lifting your left leg for a moment, and then stepping that foot back and coming into warrior two. Breathing here, getting that lovely sense of being centered over your feet, way over your shoulders, hips, rather than fencing style. And then elbow to knee, extended angle, breathing here. And then coming back up, and again, sliding that foot back, particularly if you're on a board. We're going to come into our half moon. So taking the weight in this front leg, gradually freeing up the weight in the back leg, touching the fingertips to the board, lifting the leg. So it's a sideways on lift. The foot is, the toes are pointing out to the side, not down or up. Opening the arm up here. Be all wonky from doing just one side. And then slowly bringing that leg down and coming back to your warrior two. And then bringing the back arm up and over onto the floor, tiptoes of the back foot, and reaching up for the twist on the other side. So breathing here again. Lovely, firm, pushing into the board with your feet and your hand. Pulling this top hand back firmly. And then taking the hands down, stepping the foot forward, coming to the half lift position. Inhale, exhale round, pulling, hugging in behind the bent legs. And inhale all the way up to standing. Exhaling, coming to prayer. I don't think we've got time to do everything I'd planned to do today. So we're going to do, which one shall we do? Maybe try all of it, I don't know. Okay, we're going to do a little balance flow. Okay, so everyone feeling stable, balanced? So hugging, lifting one leg. So lift it, come to the center line of your board or your mat, and lift one leg. So lift your right leg up, so the knee's in line with your hip. Okay, and you can stay here and bring the knee out to the side for this one. Okay, that's an option, and tricky enough option, especially on a board. If you want to take it a little bit further, you can grab the toe. Now, try not to lean forwards to grab the toe. So try and do this only if you can keep your shoulders above your hips. You might have a bend in the knee, or you might be able to straighten the leg forward. So if you're holding your toe or if you're holding your knee, we're going to see if we can take that leg out to the side. Maybe just a little, maybe a little more. And see if you can look over the other shoulder at the same time. If you've got your leg out to the side, it can be easier to have your arm out to the side as well. So we're either holding the toe or holding the knee. We're going to bring that knee back to center, and then we're going to start bending this standing leg and cross the ankle over the knee. So this is a standing pigeon. So crossing the ankle over the knee, so that knee pushes away, or it's above the ankle over the knee. Sink back and bringing your hands to prayer here. So sitting back there. So it's like our single leg chair and a pigeon all combined. And then we've got one more for you. Taking the foot on the inside of the leg. See if you can do it without touching the toe down, but if you do need to touch the toe down, and then coming into tree, and then inhaling. You can get your foot as high as you can. You don't need to use your hand to get it there. Doesn't matter where it goes to. And then placing that foot down and shake it out. Well done. Great stuff. Okay, and we're going to do that again on the other side. So bend the knee, so the knee's parallel to the board. And again, we can take the knee out to the side like that. If you wish to give the toe a grab, keeping the shoulders nice and high, beginning to straighten that leg. So you might keep a slight bend in the knee. That's simply down to sort of hamstrings there. And either way, taking the foot out to the side, looking over the other shoulder if you can. Using that arm for a bit of extra stability if you wish. And then slowly coming to center. And we're going to bend this leg, bend the standing leg, sink down into a bit of a one-legged chair, crossing the ankle over the knee, bringing the hands to press. This is a really tricky combo, so don't worry if you've had to have a little break or put your toes down at some point. If the legs are struggling a little, it's fine. Just take the breaks when you need to. Sinking down there, hands to prayer. And then slowly coming up and bringing the foot wherever you can on the leg without needing to pull it up. Just active tree here. And then inhale, reaching arms up if you wish. Again, taking a lovely big deep breath. And then slowly lowering the hands, lowering the foot, and then just walking it out, shaking it out. You might want to shake those feet out. Well done. And we're going to come down to the floor now. So feet either side of the center line. Inhaling, reaching up. Exhaling, folding down. Hands forward, stepping back. And we'll do that roll down, so knees and body down, using your hands as a pillow. Just relaxing there. So using your hands in that Makarasana for a few moments. Is there a big line across my screen? Okay, so we're going to come back into downward facing dog now. So pressing the hands into the board, pulling back into down dog, and then just transitioning to seated, any which way you like. So that's just, you might spin around or step through into a cross-legged position. And then we're going to roll back onto the board. So again, if you're on the board, you do want to have the lower back kind of over the center line here, but obviously it's not quite so relevant because we haven't got water. So lying on your back, having the palms facing down, knees pointing up, feet hip width apart. So we're coming into our somatic bridge here and a little somatic flow to finish with. Okay, so the somatics, slightly different. There's a few, we're repeating a certain process called a pandiculation. So a pandiculation is what we do when we yawn and what animals do naturally. And we kind of, it's systematized for somatic yoga. So we're deliberately engaging, disengaging, and then resting completely. So I just want you to really pay attention in these couple of flows, making sure that you do the rest bit, because we're kind of used to just going, you know, into one rep, into another rep. So just making sure that you have that complete moment of like, even if you need to do that cleansing breath, okay? It's really important because that's where the magic happens, in the rest. So lying on your back, palms facing down, knees pointing up. Now flatten the back, so flattening the back, tucking the pelvis, and begin to lift the pelvis and then lift the hips up off the floor into a bridge. Really try and fine tune this movement, so it's vertebra by vertebra. So really lifting. And then as you lift, turn the arms so the palms are facing up, but make sure that turn is coming from the shoulders. And notice how then you're pressing the shoulders firmly into the board. So now you're pressing the feet and the back of the arms and the shoulders and the back of the hands all into the board, lifting the chest high. And we're going to melt down from the top. So release the shoulders, release the top of the spine down, vertebra by vertebra, lower. And feel that spine. It's called beads on a necklace. So imagining as if you're dropping a necklace down, vertebra by vertebra coming down. And then when you feel the pelvis land neutral, we're going to create an arch. So pressing the tailbone into the floor like a real arch. And notice how that engages the muscles of the lower back. And then come to neutral. And then we take our breath, that moment of pause. Okay, and then we're going to do exactly the same again. So flattening the back and begin to scoop or lift the spine vertebra by vertebra off the board or the mat, And as you do that, you're turning the arms. The arms are going to palm up, moving from the shoulders. So we're engaging the shoulders. We're pressing the arms and the shoulders and the hands and the feet firmly into the board. And then we're slowly going to lower from the top down. And just make your breath easy here. Don't worry too much which direction you're moving as you're breathing, because you're probably moving more slowly than your breath anyway. So vertebra by vertebra comes down. And then when the pelvis is neutral, we then add the arch to engage the lower back, pressing the tailbone into the floor. And then coming to center and taking that lovely moment. Well done. And one more time. So tucking the pelvis. Lifting vertebra by vertebra. You might feel there's some bits that you can't sense easily. That's fine. That is our sensory motor amnesia. But what we're trying to do is create as much awareness of those bits as possible. So just give as much awareness to the small bits as you can. Lifting, turning the hands, pressing the arms and the shoulders and the feet firmly into the board. You might feel that you're lifting higher now, pressing. And then we're going to release from the top down and get that real sense of just releasing, relaxing into this as we consciously disengage all that tension that we've just created. And then when the pelvis is at the floor, creating that arch and engage. And then come to neutral. And you might want to take that cleansing breath here. So we're reprogramming with the somatics. It's reprogramming the brain to release tension. And just as a kind of concept, you're going into tension. So if you have a neck tension thing in the morning, you wake up and you've got a crick neck, the somatic way, you wouldn't stretch it away, you'd actually go into that and shrug your shoulders even more into tension, create more, but then slowly release the tension and pause. And it's quite a magical thing really, how quickly it can release tension, because it tells the brain to switch the tension off, because the brain's in charge of it all. So we're going to do the same now with our psoas release. This is so dropping your legs down for Shavasana quickly actually. So check in with your hips. So we've obviously done a bit of hip opening, more sort of standard vinyasa yoga, hip opening stuff. This is releasing any leftover tension in the psoas muscles. The psoas comes round the back as well. So this is really great if you've been sat a lot, even if you're biking a lot and you feel tension in the lower back and the front of the hips. This is a really great way to release it without stretching. So notice how those hips feel. We're going to check in between sides as well. And hugging one leg in. So holding just down below the knee, and keep your head down for this whole flow. So we're going to lift the straight leg off the board or floor, keeping the toes pointing directly up. So it's a really slow lift, not very far, but a really slow mindful lift and a really slow mindful lower. And then when the foot comes down, relax completely and feel and notice how the other knee might hug in more. Just release any tension anywhere. And then, so that means we come from complete no momentum as we do that again. So toes point up and slowly lift. And you notice the legs want to go fast. And when you slow it down, it might be jumpy and skippy, or it might be just really hard to slow it down. So that's our challenge, is slow it right down. Notice that jumpy skippiness. That's again our sensory motor amnesia at work. And then slowly lowering the leg down. Well done. And then rest and pause, let it all go. Well done. And then one more time in this position. So toes point up and then lifting slowly. Sort of frustrating to feel that lack of control, that sensory motor amnesia. But the more we do these flows and the more you pay attention, we basically iron that out, because the sensory motor amnesia is just our brain not being aware of how to control this, because it's so used to using the speed and momentum. So slowly lower. Let the leg come down. Lovely stuff. And completely relax. And again, you might notice that other knee can hug in more. Now we're going to keep the toes out. They're probably out because you're in your Shavasana. So now the toes are turning out. We're doing the same thing. Keep that knee hugged in that was hugged. But now we're going to do that 3 times with the toes pointing out. So lifting the legs slowly with the toes pointing out to the side, feeling this more slightly in a different angle on your inner thigh, and then slowly lower. And completely relax. Well done. And again, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And completely relax. And one more time in this direction, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. and completely relax. Well done. And then turning the toes inwards for the next 3. So turning those toes inwards, exactly the same flow. So lifting that leg slowly, under control, smoothing out with your attention. And don't make the sort of mistake of thinking, oh, I want to smooth out so I'll go faster, because that's how our brains tend to work. So slowly lower. The more you slow, the more of the jerkiness you might feel, but that's okay. It's part of the process. So slowly lower. And what you'll find here is to completely relax, you probably have to take your toes all the way back out to the side, otherwise you're not really relaxing as much. And so then we need to turn the toes back in all the way for the next one. So slowly lifting, slowly lowering, and completely relax. And then just one last time here, turning those toes in, slowly lifting, slowly lowering, and completely relax. And then dropping the top leg down, coming into Shavasana. Now pay attention to how you feel side to side. Do you notice a difference? You might feel a difference in energy. One side might feel light, one side might feel heavy. You might physically feel a bit wonky now that one side's released tension and the other side hasn't yet. It will. So just notice what you notice. So the brain learns through contrast. So when we're using this somatic yoga, we really want to bring our attention and awareness in and really notice the changes and the sensations, rather than checking out like we might do when we're doing things and we're trying to avoid the feelings of discomfort, potentially, if you're exercising, trying to go further, faster. Now we really want to check in and tune in. So we're going to do the other side. So hugging the other leg in. And exactly the same flow. So I don't need to talk probably as much through it. So turning the toes pointing up. Slowly lifting that leg. This is our pandiculation. We engage the muscles and we disengage them under control. So it's a smooth lower. The speed is the same in both directions. And then completely relax and let go. And again, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And completely relax and let go. And again, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And completely relax and let go. And now keeping the toes turning out, the same flow, slowly lifting. Really paying attention to how that feels, what the muscles are doing. Slowly lowering. And completely relax. Noticing if that other leg can hug in more on those moments of rest. And again, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And relax. I have actually lost count. I think we've done 2, so we'll do one more on this side just in case. So slowly lifting. Should be able to count to 3 really, but slowly lowering. And get that real feeling of letting go as you relax. And now turn the toes inwards for the last 3. And again, slowly lifting. So really try and get that sense of even movement upwards and even movement downwards. There's no collapsing until the leg lands on the floor. Then you let go of the tension, but we don't collapse down. So again, slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And completely relax. That might mean the toes flop out to the side here. And again, one more time. Toes turn in. Slowly lifting. Slowly lowering. And completely let go and relax. And taking the legs down, now coming back into your Shavasana. We're going to stay in Shavasana after this, basically. So yeah, but now checking in, just before we come into our relaxation, just notice how you now feel, different to the beginning and different to the check-in at halfway. Does the energy feel the same? The tension levels, the release, heavy, light? Notice what you notice. And then just before we come into our Shavasana for for the end of the session, just bending your knees, place the feet flat on the floor. And I'd just like you to do a couple of arch and curls. So that tuck in the pelvis, arch in the pelvis, just to even things out after doing one-sided. You might also like to take the knees to one side and the other a few times. A little roll through there. This is where hopefully you're not rolling off your boards here. Well done. And then coming to center. If you want to grab blankets or whatever for your Shavasana, then now's a good time to do that. Otherwise, just settling into Shavasana. So arms come out just by your sides, palms facing up here. Wiggle the shoulder blades under you. Let the feet drop out so the legs and hips are relaxed. That's it. Well done. And you might want to wiggle, just tuck the chin slightly to lengthen the neck. So just find a comfortable position and settle. And allow the breath to soften here. You might notice it just becomes easy, soft, subtle. And pay attention to the breath. Feeling waves of peace and joy, love and light wash over you as you breathe. Each inhale fills you up, and each exhale lets go of anything that no longer serves you. A continual process. And find yourself diving deeper into this space between your thoughts. Let that space expand as you breathe, filling that space up and letting go with each breath. And imagining now you're on your board in the water. The board's secure, so you're not floating anywhere. Just imagine the sound of the water lapping against the boards, yours and your others. The sound of the gentle breeze. And the birds, and any ambient sounds around you just lull you deeper into relaxation. As you let go of engaging into any stories about anything, instead just letting yourself drift. Being completely absorbed in the present moment, observing, noticing, paying attention. Savoring this time to completely let go. To relax, feeling completely free. As you let go of your stories, your thoughts, judgments, and breathe in love, peace, and joy. Bathe in yourself. In love and light. Feeling the warm sun on your skin. The gentle motion of the board on the water. And we're going to begin to take deeper breaths here. So obviously you can stay there if you wish. Don't feel you have to come out now, but we can all come out together. So taking deeper breaths and begin to stretch that lovely yawny pandiculation, reaching, moving in all sorts of directions. Savouring the transition. And on a board, we always have to remember not to roll onto one side, because that would be when we go in for a dunk. So you might want to hug the knees. If you're on a mat, or you can roll onto one side, you might want to roll onto one side to transition up to seated. So sitting on your board, crossing legs, bringing your hands to prayer at your heart center. Namaste. Thank you very much, everyone. Well done.